everyone, and welcome to the Monday, May 21st, 2018 regular Board of Education meeting. Look like we have quite a bit of business to take care of tonight. We have a lot of people wishing to speak, so I think it's probably a good idea if we get started here on time. And I'd like to get this meeting started by recitation of the vision statement. So I am calling this meeting to order, and our vision statement is: every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. Okay, so we'll get started here. We'll move right along. And the next item on the agenda is we have a recognition resolution. Okay, the Board of Education would like to recognize Charles Waugh, Madison West High School graduating senior, to be named to the 54th class of the 2018 United States Presidential Scholars. Now, Charles Waugh, graduating senior at West High School, has been chosen as a United States Presidential Scholar, the highest academic honor a student can receive from the United States Department of Education. Now, Charles is an innovative student and not only dedicates his time to personally excel, but also dedicates his time to better his school and his community. As an example of this, Charles has played an important role in bringing student voice into a strategic framework, planning meetings. We feel very lucky to have his ideas as we plan for the future of the district. The board would like to recognize Charles for his achievements by reading a resolution.
Is Charles here? Yep. Come on up, buddy. Come on up here. Come on up on stage. Come on up stage. So this is one of the coolest things board members get to do. So, how you doing? Stay right, yeah, just right there in front of the stand right over here. That's cool. Yeah. All right. Whereas Madison West High School graduating senior Charles Waugh is one of 5 students in Wisconsin and one of 161 nationwide to be named to the 54th class of the 2018 United States Presidential Scholars. Whereas U.S. Presidential Scholars are high school seniors selected by the White House Commission on U.S. Presidential Scholars and the U.S. Department of Education for academic achievements, excellence, evaluations, essays, transcripts, and evidence of leadership, community service, and commitment to high ideals. Whereas the United States Presidential Scholars Program was established in 1964 by President Lyndon B. Johnson by executive order and has recognized over 7,000 of the United States' most distinguished graduating seniors. Whereas Charles is the president of West High School's Green Club, an environmental advocacy and sustainability group that helped raise $100,000 to install solar panels on the roof of the school that will occur over summer break. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Madison Metropolitan School District Board of Education and the MMSD community recognizes and congratulates Charles Waugh for his outstanding accomplishments and for serving as a role model and example for future generations of students to follow, and probably us to follow as well. Be it further resolved, this statement be permanently imprinted in the Board of Education minutes for the meeting of May 21st, 2018.
Charles, congratulations.
He's going to Harvard. Of course.
Well, we could just call it a night.
Let's let him run the school.
Okay, I guess we can't. All right. So, next item on the agenda. We have a bit of board business to take care of at this time. And as you all know, this is the time where the board elects its new officers. And so we will take care of that and engage in that process right now. And so we'll be electing 5 officers tonight, which will be the president, the vice president, clerk, treasurer, and secretary. So we have 5 officers to fill tonight. And as to get us started, I would like to ask, now this will be a ballot election, so you have your ballots in front of you. So I'd like to ask for nominations for president of the Board of Education. I have a nomination for Mary Burke as President, Board of Education. Any other nominations?
I nominate Kate Taves.
We have a nomination for Mary Burke and Kate Taves for President of Board of Education. Any other nominations? Seeing none, then I'll move that the nominations be closed. And I'd like to direct everyone to cast your ballots, write down who you would like to have for President of the Board of Education, and Bart will come around and pick those up. You can. You need to speak loud so the President can hear you.
I would prefer to decline that nomination.
Okay, Kate Taves declined the nomination. So, seeing that there are no other candidates, then Mary Burke wins presidency by unanimous ballot. Congratulations. So, at this time, I can just take your issue. So, at this time, it's been a pleasure serving you all for all these years, and I'm looking forward to a very exciting and different year. And Mary, congratulations. Look forward to following your leadership. Congratulations.
I'll miss you, Dean.
I'm later.
Hey, stranger. Just sit down for now.
Before we move on to elections for the rest of the offices, I want to thank James for his service. So it's not usual. In the last few years, this has been a position that has rotated generally every year to 2 years, and James has really gone above and beyond and has served for four straight years. Yeah. And we really appreciate his leadership. Thanks. With that, we will open up the nominations for the position of Vice President.
James. I'll nominate James. Let's do it.
Oh, Nikki.
I nominate TJ.
So hearing no further nominations, the nominations for the office of the Vice President are closed. For Vice President, the following are nominated: James Howard and TJ Mertz. We will now move to a vote. please cast your ballot by writing the name of the candidate who you choose for vice president or abstain.
Pass it down.
Okay. James Howard has been elected vice president for the 2018-19 term. We will now go on to the office of clerk. And are there any nominations for the office of clerk?
I am.
Nominate Nikki.
Okay. Hearing no further nominations, nominations for the office of clerk are closed. Nikki is nominated, and since we do not have any other nominations, I will entertain a motion to elect Nikki for the office of clerk by acclamation.
So moved.
Second. Second. Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All opposed?
You didn't ask for us to vote.
Oh. Glad I have him next to me. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nikki, congratulations.
Thank you.
You are in the clerk. Okay, next is treasurer. Are there any nominations for the office of treasurer?
Kate.
I nominate Kate.
Okay. Hearing no further nominations, nominations for the office of treasurer are closed. Since we have only one candidate, I will entertain a motion to elect Kate Taves for the office of treasurer by acclamation.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kate Taves is our new treasurer.
Congrats, Kate.
The final position is the secretary, and the secretary is generally filled by one of our staff positions because of all of the documentation and the papers that are required. So I will entertain, actually, I will ask if there are any other nominations for secretary.
Who's the staff?
It's currently
Mike
Mike
Berry,
Berry.
yeah.
I nominate Mike Berry.
Okay.
Second.
Oh, any other nominations? No, hearing no further nominations, we will entertain a motion to elect Mike Berry for the office of secretary by acclamation.
So moved.
I already did that.
Sorry.
TJ did that, didn't
Not yet.
I hadn't
We
asked for
nominated.
that yet. Laura, your advisory vote? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mike Berry is our secretary. Okay, so next on the agenda are public appearances, and we do have quite a few public appearances. I will call the name of the first two people, the person to speak, and the second person I would ask comes up to the front and is ready once the first speaker is finished. Each speaker has 3 minutes. You will hear beeping going off. If you can respect the 3 minutes, since we have quite a lot on the agenda and quite a few speakers, I would appreciate it. First speaker is Katie Walsh, followed by Everett Mitchell.
My name is Katie Walsh. I'm an elementary art teacher and just came from an art ed PD this afternoon. So many of my colleagues are worn down. One said she feels like she's running around with a chicken with her head cut off. She said this isn't healthy for us and it can't be healthy for the kids. I feel it too. I feel like I've been drowning this last month. When teachers start to realize that we own our own labor, that it is ours to give, not yours to take, this is when the tide will turn. This is a quote from West Virginia music teacher Nicole McCormick. Last Thursday, I stayed at school until 8 p.m. getting ready for an all-school paint event that Friday. Can't tell you how many late nights I've worked lately, all the stuff that I don't have time for during the day. We all know how often we work beyond contract. My labor is mine to give, not yours to take. I don't have time to differentiate for kids thoughtfully and be prepared to meet all kids where they are. It's increasingly difficult to find the time to do my job and do what is best for all of my kids. Now you are making me fight for a simple cost of living increase, which takes away my time, my labor that I donate to you beyond contract time. There is only so much we can do before there is nothing left of us to give. It's devastating to work so hard and then feel so disrespected by Dr. Cheatham and my school board. My labor is mine to give, not yours to take. Our cost of living increase is 2.13%. That's about $90 a month for me. My rent's increased $105 a month. 90 doesn't even cover a cost of increase for me, but I need it. I'm finishing my master's in special education, and now I have undergrad loans and grad loans. Since 2011, cost of increase has gone up 11.23%, but MMSD staff has only seen 2.63% of that at the same time. We have been very patient about this issue, and now it's time to give teachers what they need in order to do their jobs. You were aware of what the cost of living was back in January. Why didn't you budget for the full 2.13% back in January instead of passing all these priority budget items, leaving nothing left for the cost of increase for your staff, telling the public that now you can't raise the tax levy to 5.58%, which is what's needed for COLA? It reminds me of a container that you fill with sand. The sand is all those priority items that you passed back in January and February. Then we get to April, and you say there's no room left for teachers. May comes, and now it's something we have to fight for. You say to fund cost of living, you need to increase the tax levy to 5.58%, and to break your promise to taxpayers. You don't need to break your promise to taxpayers. You need to remove some sand. What priority items were more important than teachers to do the work? SEAs that help our neediest kids, the custodians who make sure our buildings are ready for us to teach and kids to learn. Priorities items such as $625,000 for tech, maybe another $41,400 will be next for virtual reality headsets. All more important than your staff. Your values have been made very clear with your choices, and it is clear you do not value our staff. Our labor is ours to give, not yours to take.
Yeah, I would ask that people hold the applause down and so we can get started with the next speaker. Thank you. Everett Mitchell, followed by Andy Wadey.
Thank you so much. My name is Everett Mitchell. I'm a Dane County Circuit Court judge here in Dane County. And the reason I'm here is because I am here to really support the need for a youth engagement team to help support our most vulnerable children. I think Frederick Douglass said it best. It is far easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And as I sit on the bench every day, I'm seeing more of our traumatized young children who are being moved throughout our school systems and who are being dropped without any ability to find the resources that they need. And so that leaves our families vulnerable, leaves our children vulnerable. In many cases, I see a lot of young children who have faced so many traumas by the age of 6 or 7 years old that we drop into classrooms with teachers unaware of the significant trauma that these children have experienced, and we really don't have any way to engage the families or these children to ensure that they are safely and productively integrated back into our school systems. I do firmly believe that Madison is committed to the overall well-being of our children, but I'm concerned that if we don't have a consistent and intentional effort toward engagement and ensuring that these children have the services that they need, we will find that we will begin to reproduce more children who don't have the basic needs that they need to graduate from high school and to be successful and to be career ready. For example, I've had one child that I know was removed in our city. He was moved over 29 times from the age of 5 to the age of 15 years old. 29 times. He went from just about every high school And we realized throughout the process that there was no connection to get him reconnected to the school, and we had to recreate and fabricate things in order to ensure that he had the proper services that he needed. He had significant needs. He had an individualized education plan. He was a special education student, and he suffered because we weren't able to get the things we need. Luckily, we were able to find the supports that we needed, but we need to be able to do more together to ensure that not just one child, but any child who has significant needs, significant trauma, significant pain, that when they enter our schools, that they continue to find the support they need and provide the kind of wraparound services that are necessary to ensure that not just these children don't fall through the cracks, but these needy children don't fall through the chasms that have been existed when they don't have the services that they need. So thank you so much.
Andy Wadey, followed by Martha Saravo.
Good evening. I'm back again to speak to you about the need for the cost of living increase for all employees and to the base wage. I've spoken to you directly a couple of times already. My fellow MTI members have contacted you all, and our bargaining team, along with MTI staff, have clearly conveyed the message that the cost of living increase is merited, needed, and expected. Some may wonder why the employees of Madison's public schools feel so strongly about this issue. And the answer for many lies in the fact that while we know that budgets are tight, we know our public schools have never gotten the full financial support they deserve, we also know that budgets reflect the priorities of any organization. To hear regularly that our labor is valued is one thing, but to see that our work is initially valued at less than 1/4 of the cost of living is something else. There's a big picture that exists when we talk about public educator wages. The fact that teachers are 5 times more likely than other workers to have a second job. The reality that average pay, when adjusted for inflation, has actually declined the past 15 years, and longer than that in Wisconsin, where the QEO has depressed wages for over 2 decades. There's the data that shows that 94% of educators pay for their classroom supplies to the tune of about $479 per year. Then there's a personal side to this. I look back at my financial records and was amazed to find that my salary has not kept up with the cost of living increases over the past 8 years. My take-home pay should be about $166 more a month had that happened. This deficit is not insignificant to me or my family. And sadly, it's not unique to me personally, not just unique to me personally. It reflects a reality that too many public educators experience. I'm also one of those who've always bought supplies for my classroom. I never realized just how ingrained it was for me in my shopping until this year when I don't have my own classroom. The idea of buying extra snacks and school supplies is part of what most educators experience. It's something that's taken for granted and something that directly supports our students in a very real way, whether it's a healthy snack, a notebook and a pencil, storage supplies for materials, or furniture for my family, for families in stress. What would our schools or classrooms look like if educators didn't purchase materials with their own money? How would our students' days be different if staff wasn't buying supplies and snacks? Public educators and public education are something that we can't take for granted. Our public schools are something incredibly special and powerful. They're something to be treasured, nurtured, and cared for, and the employees who form the foundation of our public schools deserve that level of care. Every one of your employees has earned much more than a cost of living increase. Thank you.
Martha Saravo, next is Donovan Spencer.
Hi, I am here again on behalf of my child and for future families that have IEPs with their child in the MMSD school system. The reason I'm here is I kind of want to draw some attention to why DPI and MMSD do not support each other when it comes in the IEP process when there is a placement issue. Placement is extremely important to a child to be amongst the proper peers in the classroom, and when DPI says that a child is under the parent's discretion as to when to go to school at either age 5 or age 6. But then MMSD will actually utilize and leverage with the IEP process of when of how their services are going to be used. In my daughter's case, we were told that unless we placed her in a certain grade at a certain time, they would provide services. If we did not, they actually just decided to not have her in their services for a year, which is what we are actually doing right now. I do not think that is the right thing to do in order to support the parents as all the other parents are supported, and all the other parents are allowed to choose when their kid is actually going to be placed properly amongst their peers when they enter the K-12 system. And if MMSD is truly guided by the DPI policy, I don't understand why it's acceptable to neglect a child for a whole year when they're going to be going into the K-12 system thereafter. It's the same placement, and they're going to be within the same rules as everybody else. They're going to be under the same academics with all the rest of the people in the classroom. I don't think it's right to take away the parents' choice, in order to appease the DPI policy. And in our instance too, our denial letter was already written up before we were even in the room in order to discuss these things, which again is not fair for anybody. And the only person who this is not benefiting is everybody who's involved. The child is not benefited at all. This doesn't help anybody in this process. And the LEA's description of holding the child back or possibly doing another 4K year before they enter the K-12 system is labeled as retention, which is not accurate at all. It's actually an opportunity in order to learn to be at a more fair, to be with their peers in a more appropriate place and be able to learn and to be able to keep up with everybody else in the classroom, to be able to participate within the classroom instead of being pulled out into private time with all the therapies that may happen on the side. When we have an itinerant 4K, I think that should be equally supported as if they were in like a K-12 school system, but the parents also need to be supported when they're deciding when their child is proper placement within the K-12 school. I think MMSD LEAs needs to be more supportive rather than resistant, and I would really like to be part of this process. If there's any way I can help, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Donovan Spencer, followed by Michelle Ritt.
Hi, my name is Donovan Spencer. I'm a junior at East High School, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Teen Scholars Program.
Could you speak up into the microphone a little bit more?
Hi, my name is Donovan
Thank
Spencer.
you.
I'm a junior at East High School, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Teen Scholars Program. I've just completed my second year of the Teen Scholars Program. I joined at the end of my freshman year with, anyone can join with a minimum of a 2.75 GPA. TEAM stands for Tomorrow's Educators for Equity in Madison. It's a chance for high school students to go to UW and to become a teacher in the MMSD. My favorite part about TEAM is that I can grow up and I can know that I can give back to my district today is what I like about it. And it's a chance for a lot of minority students to do the same thing. Only about 30% of the students are relatable to their teachers today, because not a lot of them come from here, and there's not a lot of minority teachers that we see today. Through the Teen Scholars Program, we can send a lot of minority students through the program and through UW and with a master's degree to go back into teaching in the MMSD, and it's just a chance for us to improve the district that we're in today and to give back to what we've grown up as.
Thank you. Michelle Ritt, followed by Lee Hayes.
Hello, thank you all for being here tonight. I've been a teacher in MMSD for many years. I'm a special education teacher. My job is far from easy, as you know from the emails I send you. I love my job, and I choose to continue to teach in one of the most challenging schools in the district. I come tonight to ask you to support the 2.13% COLA. While I feel that we deserve a 75% COLA, I ask for 2.13%. I hear on a regular basis how important teachers and other school staff are to the success of students. I see on your Board of Education campaign literature that staff is so important. Jen, you tell us on a very regular basis how much you appreciate us and how none of this work could be done without us. Now it's showtime. Show me and my colleagues that you value us. Support the 2.13% COLA. As you know, I serve on the county board. Recently, we also dealt with the COLA. My vote showed that I truly value the employees of Dane County. For me, it was an easy decision. I walk my talk. The decision for an MMSD COLA is now in your hands. Yes, there's a finite amount of money, that's always the case, but how you spend it shows your priorities. You can choose to support and value staff. It's a choice, and that choice is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Hayes, followed by Donna Braun.
Good evening, and thank you for taking time to listen to all of us tonight. My name is Lee Hayes. I am the co-president of the Leopold Elementary Parent-Faculty Organization. I was here a couple of months ago at a school board meeting advocating for the reading intervention positions to be maintained at Leopold instead of being cut. I am very pleased that the board and our superintendent heard our pleas for help at Leopold and reinstated all reading intervention for next year. Thank you so much. That is truly appreciated and will help our students. I am here tonight with my monolingual Spanish-speaking co-president, Rosario Ramirez, and fellow board member, also monolingual Spanish speaker, Karina Mendoza. And I speak on behalf of them and the other 50 parents at Leopold who organized and signed a petition to raise their concerns as Spanish-speaking population at our dual language immersion school. Specifically, these parents wanted me to speak on their behalf tonight and express their concern that the new principal at our school, which was selected via superintendent placement, does not speak Spanish. Coming after 5 years with our current principal, Karina Sloan, who is bilingual, our Spanish-speaking parents have come to expect that they can go to their principal face-to-face and be heard directly and hear back from their principal directly with their concerns. These 50 parents and countless others who did not sign the petition now do not know how their needs and concerns can be met if their only option is to speak through a translator. Additionally, the parents wanted to highlight their concern about the job description for the community school resource coordinator at Leopold. Not only is it not a requirement for this position to be bilingual, but the only education requirement is that of a high school diploma. Now, those of us who are at Leopold have been living under the community school model for a couple of years now, and as Jen Cheatham and I discussed, it has not been going as well as it has been at Mendota. These parents who signed this petition do not believe that a candidate with solely a high school degree would be qualified to negotiate the kind of complex problem solving and connections that are required of the resource coordinator position for a school population that is dual language, with roughly 40% coming from a Spanish-speaking or Latina background, as well as having another 26 languages spoken within the school, including Arabic, French, Hmong, a variety of other Spanish dialects and African dialects. So I would like to present this petition, which is all hand-signed, to the board tonight. And I would also like to invite all of you to connect with me or our future leadership to come out to Leopold and meet with these parents directly so that they know that their concerns have been adequately heard. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Donna Braun, followed by Carrie Falk.
My name is Donna Brown. I'm a nursing assistant at Short Hills Elementary School. Before that, I spent 9 years as a special education assistant at Spring Harbor Middle School. I'm here for two reasons. One, we need a COLA raise, only for the simple fact that my COLA raise, because I'm only allowed to work 20 hours a week, will give me exactly $2.50 $5.50 more a week. Barely enough to put gas in my car to get to and from work every day. Also, what I would like you to consider is that there was a handbook recommendation proposed that the ESEA unit be given a salary schedule, change in salary schedule. This is not something that is being discussed in the COLA. When we met and talked as a bargaining committee on the wages, the teachers said, how can we in good faith bargain for raises when we don't know what our support staff is going to be getting? This is something that you could easily approve early on in your budgetary process. You could approve that handbook recommendation to change the salary schedule for the ESEA units and give some of the lowest paid people that additional money that they need. In addition to the rest of us, I'm a nursing assistant. My salary is not scheduled to change in that because I'm already making a little bit more than that. However, with a COLA raise, that's still not going to make me have a cost of living increase that will keep me at the level I've been at. I need you to understand that this affects people's livelihoods. Many of the nursing assistants could not be here tonight because they're taking advanced CPR classes so that they can do what they need to do in their jobs. A lot of other people in the ESEA unit couldn't be here tonight because they have second jobs just to make ends meet. A COLA raise is the minimum that we will accept. Please understand that we are important and the teachers can't do their jobs if we don't do ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Falk, followed by Kanan O'Day.
Hi, I'm Carrie Falk, and I teach science at Badger Rock Middle School. I'm going to tell you a personal story because this cost of living raise is pretty personal. I started my educational career at the age of 6 at Schenck Elementary School. I was determined, and I was a young girl who wanted to be a veterinarian, I was sure. At Whitehorse Middle School, I made my commitment to college, something nobody in my family had accomplished before. At La Follette, I took advanced math and science classes to prepare myself for that future. But it was in my first year of college that I realized that I loved science. I didn't want to be a veterinarian. I took a course that changed my life. It was an accelerated biology course. Cells are really cool. And this course allowed me to see that beauty in science. And it was that moment I realized I wanted to see all of our kids to see that beauty in science and have that experience before they were making so many big life decisions. So that's why I'm here today. That's why I teach. But on a personal note, last summer, I married my husband. This year, we've had many conversations about starting a family. So often, those conversations come back to whether I could even keep teaching, just knowing how much it would cost to put our kids in childcare. If you didn't know, it costs about $1,400 to put one child through childcare at the facility near my school. But there's something else you should know about me. I'm a twin. My uncle is a twin. My grandma is a twin. My great-grandma is a twin. Although it's not certain, because biology isn't that way, there's a good chance that I may also have twins, that I could expect to pay $4,800, or no, $2,800 a month, right? But my take-home salary this year is $2,893 a month. So please don't make me and many other young families have to make a choice between spending time with our kids in the classroom and having kids of our own. Give us the cost of living increase, but honestly, give us more.
Thank you. Kanan, followed by Jen Greenwald.
Hi, my name is Kanan O'Day, and I'm a senior at West High School. I'm here to emphasize the need for the improvement of my school's environment. The lack of resources we as students and teachers currently have to utilize is ridiculously unacceptable. Since my first year at West High School last year, I've had a negative impression of the school environment as I encounter the lack of connection between students and staff. Students are disengaged and end up in the hallways during class time, and this has become a norm and a sample of what I encounter. The reasons for this vary from student to student, but overall the intervention students are receiving is not enough, and more serious interventions are necessary. As a guest at a few of our One West meetings, Mr. Mertz has taught me something very important. It is okay to answer "I don't know" to questions that I do not know. I honestly don't know why some students are not encouraged enough to consider education a priority. When drugs, alcohol, and skipping become priorities for a student, it's necessary to understand or engage on a personal level with these students. For other students, an intervention more deep than a conversation with the parent is necessary. However, I am not seeing serious interventions occurring. Our social services are limited, our classes are overfilled, tutors are scarce, teachers don't have time for students, study halls become loud social clubs, and we expect students to be able to compete like wild animals for the education that is being provided. I've had multiple students come up to me asking for academic support, but I lack the time and oftentimes the skills. Students should be able to have the courage to request help from their teachers, but lack of encouragement is a sign of a deeper cause. Teachers just don't have time for us. I've been observing a decrease in the mental wellness of students around the school, and I wonder why it seems like there's no one else there to pick us up. On the other hand, Homework Club has 1 or 2 tutors, and sometimes none per night. Mission 4.0 became Mission 3.0, and now we get mold on the over 700-calorie sandwiches. Someone is responsible for lowering our student standards and are decreasing the support system for us all. I'm extremely proud of our principal, Dr. Baran, who has been making attempts to ensure our school has been a safe learning environment. However, it is not enough. We need your help. Please consider our requests and listen to the audience that walks into the doors at our schools every day. I'm aware that this issue may not be only prominent at West, but in a progressive city like Madison, we should be leaders in our community and in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, followed by Marilyn Fruth.
Hi, I'm Jen Greenwald. I teach 2nd grade at Muir, and I'm a mom of a first-year alum of Madison Schools and a first-year student at West. She's friends with a lot of those kids that hang out in the halls. You should listen to him. I'm here to speak about 2 things. One, I'm not going to say a whole lot about. You've already heard compelling testimony from other people. I think a cost of living adjustment should just be an accepted practice. I don't know why we're talking about it, really. You should plan for it every year. I'm here to talk about something else that you've heard me talk about for a long time, and it's testing. And every time I say it, I hear people in their mind say, "What are you talking about, Jen? We do forward and we do map." And I say, uh-huh. And we do PALS, and we do COGAT, and we do access for English language learners, and we do benchmark, and we do oral language, and we do the writing assessment, and the number corner checkups. And now we have a new test. I teach 2nd grade. At this point in the year, they are 8 years old. You can't see this because it's one that one of my students is working on. It is 18 pages. It is the end of the year math assessment that I am required to administer to my 8-year-olds. We do it a little at a time to make it less painful. I say things sometimes in British accents to make it fun. I give my students lots of pep talks because they are smart, amazing people, and they deserve the pep talks. They don't deserve this. I keep asking myself, so why am I doing this? Why am I administering this test at this point in the year? Is it because you think I don't know enough about what my students, where they're struggling and what they know how to do? Is it because you think I need help writing a report card? Because I absolutely don't. I know them, and I know what they can do. So I don't know what purpose this serves. The kindergarten test is either 12 or 13 pages. They're in kindergarten. We do a lot of things that help kids disengage from schools. You've heard me say this before, I want my students to love school. This doesn't help. And it doesn't inform my instruction. Thanks.
Marilyn, followed by Dave Branson.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Fruth. I'm the nurse's assistant at Leopold.
Could you use the mic a little closer? I can't hear you.
0.5% is an increase, but it's not a cost of living increase because that's 2.13%. 1.26 is an increase, but it is not a cost of living increase because that is 2.13%. This is a copy of my latest performance review. It covers the past 2 years. It's all fives, lots of superlatives. I'm proud of it. Honestly, it's not in my nature to toot my own horn. It makes me uncomfortable. You can probably tell. But I bring it up to drive home the point that I and my colleagues have dutifully and passionately performed with excellence our side of the contract to educate, to prepare for college, career, and community, excuse me, the students of MMSD. You know this, and I know you know this, but it's time to demonstrate that you know this. I am not here tonight with my hat in hand asking, please give me 2.13%. And I'm sorely tempted to say I'm demanding. But for tonight, I choose simply to say I expect. I expect you, the board, to do your duty with passion and excellence and fulfill your side of the contract to the staff of MMSD. A 2.13% cost of living base wage increase for all employees. That's what I expect. And I and my colleagues have the right to expect it because we have earned it. We have so earned it. And just like you know we deserve it, I know you can figure out how to get it done. And finally, I would just like to add that my inspiration tonight comes from the brave public school educators in West Virginia, Kentucky, Arizona, Oklahoma, Colorado, and North Carolina, who have left their classrooms to march to the capitals of their states to protect quality public education. I say forward to all of them, and I say forward to the staff of the MMSD. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Branson, excuse me, you know, I've tried to make sure that people do have a chance to participate and to show their appreciation. I applaud that. But I think also we should be respectful of everyone's time here and keep it so that we can keep the speakers coming as well. Thank you. So Dave will be followed by Kira Fobbs. Thanks, Dave.
I'm Dave Branson, and I represent the building trades that work for Madison School District. The 5 trades that I represent are the steam fitters, the plumbers, the electricians, carpenters, and painters. And I'm asking you to support the 2.13% across the board raise for all the employees. The wages that the building trades who work for the school district have been falling behind way behind what they could make in the private sector. In 2016, everyone received a 0.12% increase. The average increase for the trades in the private sector, the 5 trades that I represented, was 2.37%. Last year, the school district increase was 1.26%. The average for the 5 trades that are represented was 3.12%. With the building trades, the contracts are always up on June 1st, so everybody's negotiating right now. The wages are going to be well above 3% again this year. And if this continues, if the building trades keep on falling behind what they can be making in the private sector, it's going to become increasingly hard to retain and to recruit more building trades out there. You know, there's a lot of construction going on right now. You can see that by walking out here. There's cranes up all over the place. It doesn't show any signs of slowing down. And all of the trades are very busy. They're all out there trying to recruit people. And please support the 2.13% because, like I said, it will become a lot harder to retain and recruit building trades to work in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Kira Fobbs, followed by Tom McGillivray.
Kira Fobbs, Falk Elementary, speaking as an individual. I've been in this district for 22 years now, just ending 22. 2 years ago, the Social Security Administration informed me that my salary actually went down. That's never happened to me in my life. I've had to work 2 jobs most of the time that I've been here in MMSD. I've lost over $550 a month due to Act 10 and the negotiations that have happened since Act 10. I've had to refinance my house once. I tried a second time and failed, so now I'm selling my house. The loss of compensation for planning time, for attending and serving on IEP meetings has been crucial to me because I have usually 5 to 8 special ed students in my classroom every year. I serve in a Title I school with over 74% minority children, and I think it was 47% special ed. How can I live? How can I call myself a professional when I'm being treated like a slave? Act 10 was a severe blow, and we showed our strength by coming out in numbers and showing our responsibility as members of the community. And we failed, but we haven't given up. But Act 10 says cost of living. Act 10 says cost of living. I deserve cost of living. We deserve cost of living. And that's 2 13/100ths. I'm a math teacher.
Good evening. I think it was Pam McGillivray, not Tom.
I'm sorry,
I would not be a teacher because of my writing.
Yeah.
Pam McGillivray.
I'm sorry, you'll be followed. Next one up, just excuse me, we'll start over again, is Marlis White-Eagle. Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, no problem. Pam McGillivray, I'm the president of Nuestro Mundo, Inc., and I'm here on behalf of NMI and the Nuestro Mundo community. So as you know, we're moving forward with the renewal of our charter process. DPI has agreed to the waiver, and so we look forward to working with you on the substantive issues on that as we go forward in the next few months. Tonight on the agenda is a renewal of the lease for Maywood, and we're supportive of that, and it will give us some certainty and our parents some certainty as we look for a permanent home for Nuestro Mundo through the facilities planning process. So we hope that you will give us that bit of security with the 5-year lease that is on the agenda for tonight. But also I have to extend my support for the teachers and staff who are here tonight. The teachers and staff at Nuestro Mundo are really the heart and soul of what makes it a successful school. So I would urge you to meet them at least with the cost of living raise, and would iterate again that they deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlis, followed by Frances Wiedenhoff.
Good evening, school board members, and good evening, teachers and educators of the city of Madison. I'm here, and I'm not quite sure why I'm here, except that there are some things that have gone unsaid and unnoticed. I'm looking around here. I am not a stranger attending school board meetings. I've been attending these meetings for the last 40 years. 40 years. And of those times, I haven't had one increase. I haven't had a dime for my efforts when it comes to being an educator myself. No one has paid me anything to come up and to advocate for our young people. And if you all look at me, and take a good look at me, because I'm one of the few persons here in the city of Madison that are continually tokenized and objectified in my situation here. I'm talking about this annual report is just an example. And what the contents within the annual report, we are totally invisible. I'm not just talking for my community, the Native American community. I'm talking about many communities. We come here and applaud ourselves to being educators, but lots of times we have to do it on our own because no one else would do that for us. So I'm here talking specifically about how education is supposed to be synonymous with what you all have, and you all have a job. The majority of you here all have a job, a job. I have a person, a daughter, who has gone through the schools of Madison. She's, you know, as old as many of you persons here. She's got an education. She doesn't have a job here. She's applied here. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't get a merit increase. You know, she's doing what she can to support her family. And I'm here talking just on one agenda. I imagine I was thinking exactly what am I here for? I have a lot of other issues. Because when I look around, this place hasn't changed. McDaniels is still here. You know, we have new board members, we have a new superintendent. But nothing has changed. And I think we're all looking for a change. And I think one of these days we may get a change. And they're all going to give us back what I get back. You're going to have to get what I get, because I have nothing more to give you. And I really think that I'm here for this. You know, I'm here to listen to you all. I'm here to be listened to. I'm here to be looked at. I'm here for you to all look at your students. I'm not tokenized. I don't want to be the person you guys contact at the end of November to talk about Native Americans. You know, this is, like I said, you know, I've been approached by many of the staff of the school. Will you sit with us at SHRAC? Will you go through our curriculum? And I said, yes, voluntarily. Don't pay me a penny. I don't want it. If this is to improve our schools, that's what I'm here for. And guess what? During this time, not one person, not one of these persons that had asked me have contacted me. Not one, not by phone, by text, by email. I said, you know what that means? That means I'm objectified. I am a token here within the school. And I'm tired of it. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. I probably have more, but I only have 3 minutes, and I don't hear the buzzers go off.
Yeah, Marlis, could you finish up? I'm sorry, the 3 minutes have passed.
Oh, I'm done, but I'm not done.
Good. Francis, followed by Anna Moffett.
My name is Frances Wiedenhoff, and
I'm sorry, Francis, could you speak into the microphone a little bit more?
I'm coming to you today at the end of the school year, profoundly discouraged and disillusioned with the Madison Metropolitan School District. It's been 24 years since we didn't graduate our native daughter from the Madison School District, despite all of our total family efforts to support her in graduating. It's been 6 years since my oldest grandson, native grandson, did graduate, but only after Herculean efforts on our part to find one small place for him in this whole school district where he was able to succeed. I'm now faced with the same situation with my preteen grandson, who is feeling more and more alienated with the school system going into 6th grade. This is all on the backdrop of Native proficiencies on the strategic framework milestones that are abysmal. The only thing that Native students are doing 50% or better on is getting Fs in 9th grade. So the factors that have shown in studies to correlate with better graduation rates for Native students, like having Native people, educated Native people hired into the schools, having someone in that school environment for the Native kids to look at, say, this person looks like me, they know me, they get it, you know, and make a Native student feel visible again and again. That is not happening when over and over qualified Native candidates who have all the qualifications for positions are not hired. Over the past several months of advocating in Native education, I have heard over and over again the word fairness, but nothing about anything that's been going on recently or throughout all the years since my daughter was in school. None of this has been fair. And looking at this report right here, that it kind of sums it all up. It says it all. When you look at the breakdown of graduation rates by, you know, what it calls the student group, Native Americans are not even on there. That is a loud and clear message to the students and their families that you don't matter. We don't even count you.
Anna Moffett, followed by Joanne Yankee.
Okay. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm here with several other parents that are here to voice our concerns around special education programming in the school district. I want to start by saying ableism is a form of discrimination or prejudice against individuals with physical, mental, or developmental disabilities that is characterized by the belief that these individuals need to be fixed or cannot function as full members of society. As a result of these assumptions, individuals with disabilities are commonly viewed as being abnormal rather than as members of a distinct minority community. As a parent of a child with a significant disability, I have firsthand experience with district staff treating my son as less than and trying to exclude him from the school community. My son Felix is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Due to his disability, he has limited access to verbal communication, requires close supervision, and has extensive support for personal care needs. It was during his 4K year at Midvale Elementary I discovered how far some folks would go to exclude my son. Typically at an IEP meeting, all staff as well as family members are encouraged to share information. So it was extremely odd that at his placement meeting, not one staff member, except the principal, spoke about what would be an appropriate placement for my son for kindergarten. Ultimately, the principal and assistant director of student services decided he should be placed at a different school rather than attend Midvale. I was extremely upset by the decision because it meant that he would have to deal with another transition to a new school environment, and it also meant he was at greater risk of getting hurt due to his issues with elopement and fascination with water. After the meeting, I finally found out what had happened from his case manager. His teachers and support staff were told not to speak or give input during the meeting. The principal went so far as to physically tap my son's case manager's leg under the table and shushed him repeatedly to prevent him from participating in the meeting. I was astonished and heartbroken to see how far an individual would go to keep my son out of a school. In the end, he remained at Midvale via an administrative transfer after I requested mediation and submitted a letter from his case manager documenting the principal's actions, which were not only unethical, they were illegal. I share my son's story because you all need to know about the countless ways our students with disabilities are discriminated against, poorly served, and prejudged by some in our school district.
Tonight, you will be hearing from other families about the atrocious things that our children and youth have endured in our MMSD schools. We ask that rather than seeing our children and youth as damaged goods with disengaged parents, you see them for the brilliant, creative, and resilient individuals they truly are.
Joanne, followed by Margaret Rubio.
Good evening. I'm Joanne Youngke, mom to Miriam, a Jefferson 7th grader with a complex IEP, and to Lydia, a Memorial sophomore with a GDL driver's license. I'm speaking tonight about my Miriam, but also about her fellow student, Gio, who joins Miriam in the special ed room at Jefferson for the greatest part of the school day. Gio's parents, Ron and Charlotte, can't be here tonight. Families like ours have extra childcare issues sometimes, so I'm here to let you know about some challenges that Miriam and Gio share. They both have epilepsy. They both have limited spoken language for expressing their thoughts and preferences and needs. They're both vulnerable to dysregulation and to expressing themselves through physical contact when words fail and the frustrations pile high. And they've both made so much progress across their MMSD years that a substitute SEA who worked with them both last week and who knew them from years ago was moved to tears at how much progress they both had made. Miriam, for example, used to have multiple incidents of physical contact with staff every single day back in 4th grade. She's now down to maybe 1 incident per week. Imagine being the proud parent of such a student, seeing the good results of years of your involvement and love and persistent patient strategizing with the school, and then getting a letter in the mail with the subject line, "The recommended expulsion of Miriam Oakleaf." I understand. The purpose of the letter is supposed to be to inform me that there won't actually be an expulsion. But every time I get another one of these letters, it hits me like a ton of bricks. As Miriam's parents, we've gotten about a dozen of these. Gio's parents have had the same. In both cases, the behaviors are documented manifestations of our children's disabilities, clearly outlined in their IEPs. What in the name of parent engagement is the district trying to do to parents like us with these letters? Can you imagine how it feels to get letters almost every week telling you that there's been yet another recommendation to remove your child from the school community? And it's more than just the one letter. For every incident, we get a call from the assistant principal. She has to send an expulsion exemption request to the district and a letter to us informing us of the incident details, and then we get the recommended expulsion, but not really, letter from the district. Our kids are building thick school-based files of expulsion documentation. This is also why the count of level 5 incidents has jumped into the dozens this year, despite only a couple of actual expulsions. 1 dozen is Miriam, another dozen is Gio. This process is as unnecessary as it is infuriating, and it's unfair. Only a couple of middle schools are currently sending these letters, although the district has directly refused to tell me how many. Please help us make this stop before you involve any more families. Of the many things that need improvement in the district for students with disabilities, this one is easy. First, you hit the rewind button, back to where we were before the first of these letters went out in September. You can read about the rest in the recommendations I resent to you this afternoon. The MMSD homepage proclaims we stand behind students with disabilities and their families. Every one of these letters that the district inflicts on a family like mine is undermining that claim. Thank you.
Margaret Rubio, followed by Kiana Chi.
I can't chew out of my gum anymore. I've chewed all the flavor out. I'm so anxious. This is my first time. I promise I will be clear, concise, and to the point, and be nice. As my son says, when I go to school, I turn into Medea, and that's pretty sad. He asked me why I was coming here tonight. I said, because I need to talk about what your rights are. And we had a pretty clear-cut conversation. He is 12, and he has ADHD, OCD, Tourette's, and a mood dysregulation disorder. He was hospitalized for almost 2 weeks in the 4th grade, and I've come to find out that maybe that could have been prevented because I have open communication with everybody. Everybody can talk to everybody. I always tell people, we are gonna stand around the campfire, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya, come hell or high water for my kid. We are here for him. And I was talking to him and he said, Mom, why do you need to talk to them about that? Why do you have to make them do that? It's a given. And I said, you know what, you're right. It's not a tomato tomato. It's not a potato potato. It is what his given right is for a good education. At 7th grade, or when he was 7 years old, I was at Journey Mental Health. My son at the time was saying he wanted to kill himself because of his Tourette's. He had an awful tic. We called it the chicken wing. And he went, like that. I'm waiting to go into the intake, and my family advocate was there with me. And I went in, and this is what he said, the therapist. Close your eyes. Pretend you're holding onto your son with both hands. Someone comes and smacks you in the face. And I open my eyes and I go, what? He goes, close them. So I did. Someone comes again and smacks you in the face. He goes, what do you do? I said, well, what do you expect me to do? I'm going to take one hand and go like this. I'm going to take the other hand and grab the hell out of my kid and make sure that I defend it so that no hits come to him. He said, now turn off the lights. This is what it is to be a child of special needs. All of these parents here with children of special needs have enough to deal with. I've had people in his elementary school cross their arms and say, why bother with OT? It's not going to work. Somebody else said, I've had 17 years of experience under my belt. Well, you know what? Apparently 17 years of experience does not help you at all. You don't let a first grader make a paper airplane and he's shining and gleaming and saying, oh my gosh, I made a paper airplane, it's the best. Comes 8:30 for class time, I've had adults chasing my kid around under the tables. Grab the paper airplane, throw it in the garbage and say, it's time to get to work. I would have kicked the SCA in the balls myself. And I'm sorry for my language, but my son is 12. He's still talking about hurting himself. He's still getting bullied. He got punched in the face last year for saying the N-word. He has Tourette's. I have another principal who tries to do an in-school suspension through the back door. Absolutely not. I am sorry that I turned into Medea. My beautiful son who turns 12 deserves better. And so do these other parents of teachers, of parents of children with special needs as well. And for us to keep the good teachers, we need to pay them more. Because I don't want somebody else to look at my kid in the future and say, you're not good enough. They all are.
Kiana, followed by Sarah Larson.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share my concern on the special education in medicine schools. As a mother of 5th grade with IEP, I have serious concern about the current practice. My son has been moved to Crestwood from Middleton in 2011 for 5 cases. Sorry. Sorry. And diagnosed with Asperger's by the end of 1st grade. And Jessica has same IEP teachers from 2nd through the 3rd grade, and another one for the 4th grade. He has behavior incidents every day in 2nd grade, but by 4th grade, they had dropped to once a week. He was not restrained even in 4th grade anymore. Jesse was out of class almost all the time in the 2nd grade. And then he started making progress in the 60% of time in the class by 3rd grade, and the 4th grade, they make it at 90% of time in the classroom. But unfortunately, in the 5th grade, over the summer 2017, his IEP teacher and 2 of the supportive 4th grade teachers, 3 of them left the school. And with sudden change and all the bad things coming back again. In September 2017, my son was restrained for 4 times. and got half day in-school suspensions, and then 1 day out of school suspensions, which made no sense with his disability, but justified by the elementary behavior education plan. In October 2017, he was put in the seclusion room 2 times. The first time was 20 minutes, the second time 30 minutes. And by the end of January 2018, he put in the seclusion room for 2 hours. And then in 45 minutes, he was escalated. And then another, about 1.5 hours, he take off his clothes. And being confined in the seclusion room for 2 hours is emotional, psychologically blow out both to my son and myself. And one time, so a couple weeks later, I just go to the school for the school field trip. And then I passed by the seclusion room. I hear the kids screaming in the room and kicking and crying. But other teacher just at the door and talking, checking, and another teacher at the desk working. It's terrible when you see a kid desperately in that room. And I find out that Crestwood has 153 times used the seclusion room and the restraints on the 11 students with disabilities. So here I want to point out that the special education staffs are not emergency personnel. They should not react as firefighters or patrol officers or law enforcement judges. They should be educator, helper, and supporter. So here, I was planning to help my son because I like Crestwood at the beginning. I was planning to attend, like my son, to attend the middle school and the high school in the Madison School District. But with this year's struggles, I have to decided to move back to the Middleton school. And they support me with that. The Middleton school only suspended 4.7 of students with disabilities in a year. But Madison School suspends 12.2%.
Can you, your 3 minutes has been up.
Sorry.
Could you please finish up?
Yeah. I just wanted the school district, the school board, to help the schools to find a better way to work with disability kids. They can be, we see they make a progress, but the teachers maybe not see it, that treat them differently. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Larson, followed by Suzanne Bucco.
Hi. There are many struggles that I could share about my daughter with autism, but I would like to share tonight about my concern about the lack of accountability that exists in 2 specific areas of special education. First, the district lacks accountability in implementing the students' IEPs. These are services that should be provided without question because the district and the family have already agreed to them. Here's one example from last year. About 6 weeks into the school year, we learned that my daughter was not receiving the lunch bunch service that she had been receiving for many years. When we asked the principal why it wasn't being provided, she said they were providing the service, just at other times. We had not discussed or approved that change in any IEP meetings. When we asked to see the progress monitoring data, it was not given to us. The principal later told us that she had no staff allocation for the service and could not get more staff, even though it was in my daughter's IEP. When we asked central office, they eventually approved the staffing allocation, and we believed the matter to be resolved. A few weeks later, however, we asked how it was going and learned that the service had only been provided once, and it was now 14 weeks into the school year. We eventually asked for and received compensatory services to make up the missed services, but only after 8 more weeks of tense negotiations with the district's legal counsel. Parents should not have to fight this hard to ensure that IEPs are being implemented as drafted. Second, the district lacks accountability in failing to provide parents with special education records, including the progress monitoring data required under IEPs. These are records that should be provided without question and without delay under state and federal law. Here's another example from last year. In late February, we asked about extended school year services for my daughter for the summer. The school told us they had submitted a packet of information on our daughter's behalf, including data. But when we requested it, the school would not give it to us. We asked the administrator, who told us to ask legal counsel. Legal counsel said the school would give it to us. But at the next IEP meeting, the administrator would not give it to us, the records or the data. He would not even discuss ESY and abruptly ended the meeting without our consent. In March, we requested the records under FERPA. In May, we received incomplete records and none of the emails that we requested. So we again asked for everything under Wisconsin Public Records law. In late July, we asked again. It wasn't until October 3rd that we received everything we asked for, 142 days after our public records request, 200 days after our FERPA request, and nearly 7 months after the first request in February. Parents should not have to fight this hard or wait this long to obtain educational records about their own children. Aside from the obvious legal violations, this is a fiscal mismanagement issue that should concern the board and the taxpayers. The district needlessly spends an inordinate amount of time and personnel resources fighting with parents when they should be implementing IEPs. The board should use its broad powers to hold the district's top leaders accountable for these failures. Our children with disabilities deserve better. Thank you.
Suzanne, followed by Crystal Sanchez-Powell. I'd really ask that people respect the 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Butchko. Sometimes I stutter when I speak. Please don't discount the message for the delivery. My daughter is finishing ninth grade at West High School. Julia is a gifted artist and she works hard at school. She's on the autism spectrum and has ADHD. Coming out of Wright Middle School, she had an excellent IEP. She was included in mainstream classes with pullouts and support. As a freshman at West, Julia was scheduled to spend more than half her day, 4 class periods plus lunch, in room 1112. Room 1112 is a segregated, self-contained classroom for special ed students. For math in room 1112, Julia completed worksheets. There was little direct teaching, no student interaction or discussion. The worksheets were checked and they were handed back to her. There was no homework, no quizzes, no papers came home. There did not appear to be a cohesive curriculum. For reading fundamentals in room 1112, Julia read short news articles and answered comprehension questions, more worksheets. Again, there was little direct teaching, no discussion, no homework, no curriculum. No book-length reading was attempted. Interestingly, when Julia joined a 9th grade English class mid-semester, she read Night by Elie Wiesel. Expectations for written work and testing were modified, and she did well. In addition to excluding students from mainstream classes, special ed students are segregated during lunch. When I inquired about the lunchtime clubs in the fall, I was told that apart from peer partners, special ed students did not join clubs because there was no support for them. I spent the fall advocating to change Julia's day. I communicated with her case manager, with the special ed principal, the special ed program support teacher, the special ed department chair, and the principal. I called 2 supplementary IEP meetings. As a result, Julia spends only occasional lunchtime only occasional lunchtimes in room 1112, and attends mainstream classes with support. She was on first semester honor roll. She joined the cheerleading team. She had a solo last week in the choir concert. She participates in 3 lunchtime clubs, including Dress to Trills and the Korean Pop Music Club. None of this would have happened in room 1112. Make no mistake, as sweet as this outcome is for my little girl, it would not have happened without a persistent, educated, and rather bitchy advocate creating a thorn in everyone's side. Room 1112 was inappropriate, restrictive, and not in compliance with Julia's IEP. I would argue that it is inappropriate and the most restrictive environment for many of the students placed there. My heart hurts for those kids who cannot be accommodated as easily as my Julia could. No parent should have to become a full-time advocate in order to get an appropriate education in the least restrictive environment for their student. Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal, followed by Lynn Renner.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Sanchez. My family and my children have been part of MMSD for 12 years. I have 4 children who attend La Follette, Senate, and Nuestro Mundo. All 4 of my children have IEPs, 2 of them in the area of EBD, and 2 of them in the area of autism. I've seen challenges throughout the years that not only my children, but other children and families are facing in MMSD district. Currently, my oldest daughter, who is 16, has always had dreams of attending NYU. She's currently enrolled at La Follette, but hasn't attended in over 5 months because of emotional and social stress from her peers and many years of serious bullying and other significant mental health issues. She has tried multiple times to get into alternative programs, only to be denied due to barriers. Every time she gets a denial letter, it's another message to her that she's not enough and she has no sense of belonging. In every part of her body, she wants to graduate from high school, but at this point, it's not looking promising. My second daughter, who's in 8th grade at Senate Middle School, has struggled significantly throughout the years. She has autism and speech issues and also dyslexia. The school district does not recognize dyslexia and does not have anybody trained within the school district. I just recently attended her IEP meeting only to find out that she's still reading at a 3rd grade level and entering into high school. I don't know how she's supposed to be able to enter into a high school when she's reading at a 3rd grade level. The reading interventions that have been implemented for her do not work for kids with dyslexia. Every time she goes to those classes, it only kills her self-esteem. She is brilliant. Though she's reading at 3rd grade level, she's somehow maintaining A's and B's currently. If she could just read at the level she was at, imagine where she could be. My 3rd child is also at Senate Middle School, and he also has high-functioning autism. He's in 6th grade. He started out at Senate Middle School in a specialized setting and has continued to sit in that classroom and never go into any other regular ed settings. He has gone over 5 years without any education because nobody wants to push him to go into the classrooms or they don't have the resources on how to handle him. The district needs to stop allocating money towards technology and resources because PTOs can fund for that. We can't fund for teachers, and we can't keep taking away teachers out of the district. I hope that you guys hear just some of my concerns as a parent, and all the other parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn, followed by Kelly Simpkins.
My name is Lynn Renner. I'm a parent of a sophomore at Memorial, and I was here last fall advocating for additional funding for SEAs, and I just want to thank the board for implementing that, and that has made a difference in my son's school at Memorial. But like so many of the other parents here, I feel like I need to be here to advocate for the overarching problems of how students with special needs are served in MMSD schools, including Memorial. My son, like many others you've heard from, or the parents you've heard from, spends most of his day in a segregated classroom, and we had to fight very hard for him to spend a couple of hours each day in 2 regular classes. These segregated classrooms lack stimulation or opportunity to learn from their typically developing peers, and I see a lack of meaningful academics, as you've heard from others. There's an assumption that my son and others can't or won't learn, so the curriculum is either non-existent in many cases, or I feel like it's really simplistic. And in several cases I've noticed that what they're teaching to my son, who's a sophomore, is not even as sophisticated or as interactive as what he was getting in elementary school. So to briefly summarize my concerns, I see a lack of modified curriculum, and that example is even when my son is taken to, he loves science and he loves history, and I appreciate that there's an SEA there to take him to these classes, but the SEA is given no training and no time and no support to modify that curriculum. So while it's great that he's there and he's not sitting in room 510, I'm just not sure how much he's getting, because there's the special ed teachers or others are not given the resources and the time to help modify that curriculum. And then finally, I think, and most importantly, which I'd like to echo others, that those SEAs are critically important to my son's success and for others, and they need to be trained, they need to be paid better, and they need to be respected, because they are the ones that make the difference in whether my son has a successful school year or not. Thank you.
Kelly, followed by Neil Rainford.
Hi there, I'm Kelly Simpkins. I am a parent of a 9th grade student with an IEP at West High School. I couldn't cut it to 3 minutes, so I'm going to leave you a 3-pager of his experience thus far as a 9th grader there, and it echoes many of my other families' comments regarding segregation, inclusion, lack of programming. But what I am here to do is Dr. Andrea Rupar, Assistant Professor of Special Education at UW-Madison, has provided a statement to be read here at the board meeting. And she's hoping that the following information will be able to contextualize the experiences you are hearing about tonight. So, teachers of students with significant disabilities should be prepared to design meaningful and age-appropriate learning experiences. Meaningful learning experiences engage students in active learning to solve real problems and navigate authentic situations alongside peers with and without disabilities. Age-appropriate learning experiences occur in the classrooms, hallways, lunchrooms, playgrounds that all students access. For example, high school students should not be completing coloring pages, or reading picture books as an instructional activity. Academic content can be adapted for students' individual needs, but should be aligned to their own grade level. This is possible through curriculum alignment, an important area of expertise for teachers of students with significant disabilities. Teachers of students with significant disabilities should be provided with appropriate resources to support students' use of assistive technology and augmentative and alternative communication. Simply put, students with significant disabilities cannot access education without these supports. Paraprofessionals are an important resource, and their job duties need to match their level of preparation. Paraprofessionals support teachers and make it possible for teachers to do their jobs. Paraprofessionals are valuable for their ability to monitor and support students, and they are not prepared to be the primary instructors or instructional decision makers for our students. Misuse of paraprofessional support can easily put students with significant disabilities in dangerous situations. And finally, we should remember the guiding principle of the Brown versus Board of Education decision. Separate is not equal. Students taught in inclusive settings are 10 times more likely to have access to the academic content instruction to which they are entitled by law than students taught in segregated settings, while inclusive spaces provide consistent opportunities to learn academic content. Segregated spaces do not. In a recent study of segregated special education classrooms, students with significant disabilities spent 57% of their instructional time either passively engaged or not engaged in learning at all. For students who had complex communication needs, it jumped to 84%. Put another way, students with complex communication needs receive about 1/6 of the education to which they are entitled
Kelly,
when they
could
are
you
educated in separate settings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Neil, followed by Emily Morrow.
Good evening and thanks for your service. I'm Neil Rainford. I'm the AFSCME representative for the Madison Metropolitan School District custodial and food service employees, as well as most of the other general employees who work for the City of Madison and Dane County. And I'm here tonight to share some additional information regarding recent local government employee compensation in the Madison metropolitan area. A few weeks ago, I shared some information regarding how far behind their fellow local government employees, MMSD support staff employees, have fallen in the past few years, and that would be specifically City of Madison and Dane County employees. Over the period 2015 to 2018, the City of Madison employees' pay has increased by more than 6%. Likewise, over at Dane County, the county employees' pay has increased by 87 cents in 2016, which was equal to 3% across the board, but it was closer to 5% for those in the lowest pay levels, and an additional 3% in 2017. So again, about 6% more or more in the past couple of years. In contrast, MMSD support staff employees have received only about 2%, and over 1% of that increase was a product of some healthcare changes that were more costly in some cases to the employees of the district. So these data strongly support the pay increase of 2.13% for MMSD employees in the coming year. In the wake of presenting this information recently, there were some questions about whether the other two main comparable government employers were also paying for step increases for their employees, and also whether those step increases were equal in cost to the step increases that have been paid by MMSD in recent years. And so in answer to those questions, I'm here tonight to report that both the city and the county have continued to pay step increases throughout the period under consideration, including really all the way back to Act 10. And moreover, both have salary structures for their general employees that are very similar to the salary structures for MMSD support staff employees. In fact, those structures, that is the step increases, are slightly more expensive than the step increases that the district has paid its MMSD employees. Specifically, All three systems have a longevity program that increases pay by between 12 and 13% over 17 to 25 years. County employees get there in 17 years, district employees and city employees closer to 25 years. In addition, the city and county employees have a step structure that increases their pay by between 6 and 10% before they reach that 5-year first longevity step. So on balance, the combination means that those step increases are significantly more expensive and that the pay increases have been significantly greater to those other municipal employees. And on those bases, we ask that you increase the pay by the full 2.13% that's allowed this year. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Emily Morrow, followed by Eugene Chrysler.
Hello, I'm Emily Morrow, an 8th grade student from Jefferson Middle School, and I'm here to talk about a teacher from my school. I represent current 8th graders, future 8th graders, and my peers. My friends and I recently heard that our social studies teacher, Miss Ball, is going to have to be a special ed teacher next year. Miss Ball has never been a special ed teacher before. She also teaches us, all of us, really important life skills that will help us in high school and ones that we can apply to our lives outside of school. There are many reasons as to why Miss Ball is such a great teacher. One of those reasons is the way that she teaches. She teaches us everything that we need to know and more. All of the information is easy to understand because she gives us many examples that we can relate to and apply to our lives. Not only does she teach us all the information required by the district, but she teaches us very important life skills. She has given us so much advice for college and high school. Miss Ball knows when to be strict and is a very kind person. When students are talking in class when they aren't supposed to, she doesn't tolerate it, and that's what makes her classroom such a wonderful environment to learn and work in. Miss Ball makes learning fun while teaching us student skills and history. I would say that everyone that likes Miss Ball and participates in her class would agree that she is a very fair teacher and that she is a teacher that goes out of her way for her students. We now want to pay her back for that and go out of our way for her. These are some of the reasons as to why my peers and I believe that Miss Ball should stay at Jefferson Middle School teaching social studies, a subject that she is very passionate about. There is, however, more personal experience and reason as to why I believe Miss Ball should stay at Jefferson. I'm a very anxious person, and I've had anxiety for as long as I can remember. She has helped me immensely with my social anxiety. Ever since I can remember, I've always been really nervous when I have to talk to someone or when I have to talk to a whole class or group. I have a big passion for history, and a big part of our class is student participation. Since she really values and encourages it, I raised my hand more. I did that because I knew the answers thanks to her teaching. And another reason why I did that is because when you raise your hand and answer a question, Miss Ball always gives you a supporting and constructive reply or response. My teachers from other classes have said that I seem more open and I have been participating more in class. I believe that if Miss Ball were to become a special ed teacher, it would be a waste of her amazing history talents. She is such a great teacher, and I could tell that she has a big passion for teaching students about social studies. Not only does she teaches us about what is required in a way that is easy to take in. I honestly don't know what the school year would be like if Miss Ball hadn't been my social studies teacher and helped and taught me. We do many fun activities in class that take a lot of thinking, organizing, and planning on Miss Ball's part. She goes out of her way to have these fun activities so that we can have a great learning experience. Miss Ball is a very valued member of the Thomas Jefferson faculty, and she is needed at our school.
Thank you. Eugene, followed by Greg Murray. Okay, is Eugene no longer here? Okay, Greg Murray, followed by Cecilia Arissa? Yes. Go ahead, Greg.
Hello, my name is Greg Murray, and I'm the parent of a La Follette sophomore and soon-to-be incoming freshman. I'm here to speak briefly about school safety and the BEP. I would like to again thank the board for its recent support of the many La Follette parents who voiced concerns regarding the dramatic increase in safety and behavioral problems at La Follette, and your quick response in supporting the creation of the new micro school. I'd also like to continue to thank the folks in the La Follette community and the fantastic La Follette teachers that have worked to improve the learning atmosphere at the school. We need to keep the momentum going because all the problems have not been solved. As you know, there was another knife fight there last week. We need to keep funding the micro school and keep improving the safety climate and culture there. In terms of the BEP, it appears you're going to be reviewing potential updates to the behavioral response chart tonight. As you do so, I would ask that you also consider the broader plan and the context in which that plan exists. First, the plan must be properly staffed. Too many teaching positions have been sacrificed to provide too few behavioral support positions. Teaching positions and behavioral support positions should be allocated separately in the budget. The positions are different, their purposes are different, and one is not a substitute for the other. There must be adequate funding along with teacher and classroom support. When a teacher rings for help, there should never be a reason that no one comes to support him or her. Second, you need to reconsider the basic philosophy and the implementation of the BEP plan beyond just the behavioral response chart. The BEP was designed to, quote, move us from a singular focus on safety. That's what it says on page 6. Given our recent history at La Follette, I strongly urge you to put your singular focus back on safety. Looking at the quote on that page, if a child is not safe in the class, they cannot learn how to read. If a child is not safe in our schools, they cannot learn how to swim. If a teacher is not safe in the classroom, she cannot teach her students how to multiply. If a teacher is not safe in the school community, he cannot teach his students how to drive. That's riffing off the quote in the plan on that page. Since implementing this plan with its specific philosophical underpinnings, safety has stopped being a singular focus, and the result is a palpably less safe atmosphere at La Follette. This must change and includes the underlying philosophy. Safety and behavior education are not mutually exclusive. You can and should do both at the same time, not one at the expense of the other. If not, I gravely fear that the Madison School District may take a turn for the worse, or worse yet, not recover. If things continue as is, I fear families will leave the school district for better learning environments where expectations are higher and clearer. And our best teachers will leave for places where they can teach without constant interruptions, disrespect, and bad behavior. Therefore, when you review the plan tonight, please keep these other items in mind. I also should never riff, but as a parent and taxpayer, support these folks with a COLA. If our good teachers leave, parents and taxpayers like me leave, and that's a terrible cycle that we cannot recover from. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cecilia Fonteraiza. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Nuestro Mundo Community School. I want to thank you all for allowing me this time to speak with you. I know your time is valuable, so I hope to part with you a sense of fulfillment in my first year teaching. If you would have been in my classroom today, what would you have seen? Well, your morning would have started with a little Mark Anthony as my students study the beauty of poetry through song lyrics. You would have heard a chorus of kiddos reveling and celebrating their culture, language, and people through song before going off and writing their own lyrics. The room was buzzing with engagement and pride as my Latino students saw their culture in a new perspective, a perspective that honors their assets that they bring into my classroom. Later, you would have listened in on a restorative circle taking place among students at my back table, where each student's voice was valued, heard, and advocated for as the kiddos discussed to reach an agreement together. It's a practice norm in my classroom that the students take ownership of their work in their academics and in their character. But how was such a day possible? How was my first year even possible? Well, a lot of hard work and endless caffeine, but most of all, the guidance that this young grasshopper, this young teacher, received her first year teaching. Guidance from my administrator, Joshua Forehand, Chispitas. Guidance to know when and where to place academic conversation in my classroom so that my students can grow. Guidance from my district coach, Annabelle Torres, who helped me craft meaningful lessons that met all of my students' needs. And lastly, guidance from the district and their partnership with UW-Madison and Forward that gave me the tools I needed to create a culturally responsive classroom where all of my students see their identity acknowledged and celebrated. The seminars over the last year have helped clarify and focus my practice so that I can be a teacher that my students deserve and need for many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of our public appearances. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular board meeting dated January 29th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. The next item is board president's announcements and reports. And the first announcement is Kristen Scott is named Outstanding Educator by Human Rights Campaign Foundation's Welcoming Schools. Nuestro Mundo Community Schools 5th grade teacher Kristen Scott has been recognized as Outstanding Educator by the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's Welcoming Schools. Kristen is an advocate and ally to the LGBTQ community and an advocate for human rights who has always worked to create a welcoming and inclusive environment for our students and family. The board thanks Kristen for her ongoing efforts to make Nuestro Mundo and our community a better place to live and learn for all. Is Kristen here by any chance?
I don't believe she's here.
Okay. Well, please give her our thanks. The next announcement is Emerson Elementary School works with local artists to create a mural based on their school's equity vision. Emerson Elementary School has been involved in the mural project, working with local artist David Kelly Detai to create a mural based on the school's equity vision. Working with art teacher Jenny Brown, the students successfully finished the welcoming mural outside of the auditorium, featuring students of all colors doing various activities. This project is very beneficial for the students and helps to promote inclusiveness in our schools. The board recognizes artists David Kelly Detai, Emerson art teacher Jenny Brown, and all the students involved in creating the beautiful work of art. The third announcement is MMSD students compete in local NAACP ACT SO competition. Several MMSD students competed in the local NAACP Afro-Academic Cultural Technological and Scientific Olympics earlier this month and are advancing to the national competition in San Antonio, Texas in July. For over 30 years, the NCAA has conducted the ACT-SO Student Olympics, which has helped to prepare, recognize, and reward African American youth who exemplify scholastic and artistic excellence. Akil Cooper of East, Amadou Kroma of La Follette, Daniel Krim of West, and Janae Harris of La Follette all took gold in the local competition. Micaiah Drake of La Follette and Monica Mack of East received honorable mentions in the competition as well. The board recognizes and congratulates all the students that competed in the ACT-SO competition. And last but not least is the 2018 Student Senate election. Everyone waiting for the big announcement. The election for MMSD Student Senate President and Board Representative took place earlier this week on May 14th. The Student Senate President position for the upcoming 2018-19 school year will be held by Morton Lee, current incumbent and junior at James Madison Memorial High School. The Student Senate School Board Representative seat will be held by Ahmad Saeed, current junior at James Madison Memorial High School. The board would also like to express its gratitude to Laura Nichols, the outgoing student board representative, for her intelligent and thoughtful years of service as she graduates this year from West High School and heads off to college.
Congrats, Laura.
The board congratulates Morton and Ahmad on their elections and highly appreciates Laura for her years of dedication to the Student Senate and her school, and of course, the school board. Thank you, Laura. We do not have a superintendent's announcements and report tonight, so we will move on to the consent agenda.
Just for separation.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll first start with the motion, and then I'll ask for separations. So it is recommended that the Board of Education adopt and approve all the motions set forth in Section 6 of the electronic agenda prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular school board meeting exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his or her affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board.
Second.
Are there any separations?
Yes, 6.6 and 6.7.
Okay. TJ?
6.36, Human Resources Report.
6.36.
Second page, last at 1.
Are there any other separations? Okay. So let's then vote for approval. Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those pass 7-0. So then we will take up the first item, 6.6, class virtual reality purchase for grades K-12.
I really wanted to support this. I read the memo, I looked at it, I really did. But I'm hearing we have students who aren't even getting the assistive technology needed to participate in the general classes. We are getting teachers where we can't afford a COLA increase. I just can't justify the expense of this. Because of those reasons, although I respect the need for it and I understand it, I just can't vote for it, but I thank the people who put the report together because it was well done.
Teacher.
I was going to pull this one also for similar but not identical reasons, and I'll try to briefly state those. First is that I think that there's no question that some good can be done with this. The question is whether where it raises on the level of priorities. It's not a whole lot of money, but you know, when I watched the video of 2 or 3 kids isolated from their classroom looking at these things, it was it was clear that those kids were benefiting. It was also clear that that this is in its infancy, and I don't think it rises to the level of priority. I'm also doing something lately, which is that I am calculating things in terms of teacher cost of living raises, and this comes out to something like 8 of our teachers, or 9 of our teachers, because each raise at 2.13 comes out to about $1,300. And so this would be, actually this would be about 30 of those. And that's how I'm calculating things these days. I'd rather give 30 teachers raises.
Any other discussion on this? So it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the purchase of 16 Class VR headset kits, 4 per feeder pattern, for students in grades K-12 from Troxel in the amount of $41,440 from the 2018-19 Technical Services operating budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Laura, your advisory vote. Okay. All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
That does not pass, 0-7. Okay, the second item that was separated is 6.7, the purchase of PALS assessment from CISA 2, purchasing for the 2018-19 academic year.
I pulled this for 2 reasons, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I'd like to try and get a testing that has nonverbal applications for students who are not verbal. And number 2, on PALS, right now we have forward, we have MAP. I'm looking at these. The teacher spoke about the 18-page math assessment really, and the kindergarten assessment really did have an effect on me. And I don't think it's really as necessary as they state, but that's my personal opinion. I know that many people find it quite helpful. I just can't vote it.
Jen?
I just want to remind Nikki and the board that we're required to have an assessment for the early grades. We do have the option to go with a different assessment if we want to in the future. We've committed to exploring alternative options besides PALS, but at this point, PALS is our assessment. Every teacher in the district has been trained on it, and we are obligated to have a standardized assessment for these grade levels. But appreciate certainly the concerning.
I don't like PALS at all, and I would really like to vote against this, but as the superintendent said, we are obligated by the state to have a test that for these grades. But I would point to the Madison Education Partnership recently prepared a research brief on alternate tests and estimate these, and I hope that at this time next year we are fulfilling the state requirement with something far superior and less onerous to both our students and our teachers.
And remember, the Madison Education Partnership we created, and we asked the group to do the assessment on that TJ's referencing. It's very helpful information.
Okay. Any further discussion? It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the purchase of the PALS assessment licenses through CISA 2, purchasing for the 2018-19 academic year not to exceed $58,000, and the shipping costs through IO Education LLC not to exceed $1,500. These funds are budgeted and will come from the Office of Assessment Administration local budget. It is also understood that most of this cost, if not all, will be reimbursed by the state.
Second.
For your advisory vote? Aye. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 6-1. Okay, and last one is 6.36, the Human Resources Transaction Report. TJ?
This is a difficult and awkward item, but and I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think it was important enough. Included on the Human Resources report is hiring an assistant principal for O'Keefe Middle School. I learned today that this is to be paid for by Title I money. It is one of 4 assistant principalships that are being added to our district this year. In all the years I have been on or following the Board of Education, I have never seen school-based administrative positions created in this way outside of the budget process. The board heard rumors about 2 assistant principalships being created when we received the budget, but weeks ago, a month ago, a little bit less than a month, we saw 4 in there. Multiple board members have asked questions about this. These questions reasonably have not been answered yet. When we're talking about that measure I'm using for assistant principalships is approximately $480,000, which is a heck of a lot of TCLRs. And I believe that a change in administrative allocations or use of Title I for administrators at the school level should require an examination by the board of both the budget and cultural impacts this will have, and this has not happened. I will add that this one is particularly at O'Keefe, and it's being paid for by Title I money. O'Keefe barely hits the Title I percentage of poverty. You lose 8, 10 students in poverty at O'Keefe, and there's no longer Title I money there, and then who's paying for the principal? So I ask that we remove that item from the HR report for a separate vote and approve the rest of the HR report as is. And I don't know how to do that, Matt, but that's what I ask.
Would I be able to comment?
Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all right with you, Mary. Yeah, I think this is, it's the first time in 5 years that I've seen the HR report get pulled. I think there are a couple of things that I just want to say to clarify, some of which was in an email response to you earlier today, TJ. There are two things going on, but all related to support of school-based administrators to make site-based decisions about how to use their limited funds. There's not a lot of flex in the school-based budget, just to be real clear, because it's all about positions. There are some allocated positions from central office that are convertible, meaning we allow for a principal to use their discretion to use those positions in the ways that they see as most appropriate and most beneficial to the school. Principals have some discretion with their use of Title I funding, which is something that TJ just referenced, those schools that actually have it. Those site-based decisions are approved by the chief of schools, either elementary or secondary, in conjunction with Jen Waldner, who manages all of our federal funds, such as Title I funds. I do want to correct something, and I think maybe this was information that you received that was inaccurate, TJ, and I apologize for that. O'Keefe's assistant principal is not funded by Title I, it's funded by some flexible resource. So your question about how is that possible is a good one, because it probably wouldn't be possible.
100% of Title I.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I want to encourage the board to do is to be careful about this decision. It is very important for principals to have some discretion with how best to use their funds above and beyond the small number of APs that we actually allocate from central office based on student enrollment numbers.
Nikki?
My issue is as follows. For principals, $480,000 is a lot of money. This is an important decision that I think requires its own time. I think the board needs to weigh in on it. It doesn't mean we won't agree on it. I mean, it means that we need to look at it, and I don't think it is getting the respect it deserves when it's being put in with all the others. Fine with the rest of the human resources. I would also agree to just take it out and put it so it can be fully evaluated by the board. Because I don't like a rushed decision on something that important.
Mary, can I make one more comment?
Yes.
I think I want to be real clear that if we were not to allow a principal to use their discretion, the funding would go back into their school-based budget. These aren't additional funds that could be, I mean, I suppose you could cut those positions from a school, but you would be cutting into a school's allocation through the workbook process. So again, these aren't additional funds that we're offering to each school. These are school-based decisions from the allocation that went out through their workbook back in January, February. Yeah, just want to make sure everyone understands that. And last but not least, a hiring process has been completed, job offers, right? I mean, we're very, very far into this process. Yeah, I want to be real clear that that would be stalling a process that's really, this is the final endpoint of approval on a person with a name who has accepted a position in our district.
Jen, could you elaborate as to what the process is for approval, so there are these discretion, there is that flexibility at the school level, but does it go through a review that said that this is the best use of resources, because it obviously takes away from resources that could be supporting students directly in the classroom.
Yeah.
So what sort of process is used?
It's a very rigorous process. We have a series of workshops. It's kind of this workshop model where a team of representatives from central office all have eyes on the budget. I mean, they rake through every decision that a principal has to make. They actually have to formally present it and defend their school-based decisions. And ultimately, after the budget has fully been assessed by the team, the chief signs off on final decisions.
Dean?
Yeah, I think the deliberative process has been there. I don't think we need to be involved in that. It's already been done at the levels where it's supposed to have been done, and I'm glad it got brought up as a discussion point so that we could all hear that. I'm all right. I'll support this. However, I want to find the funds for the full COLA somewhere, and I want that to happen. And where you know, when we get stuff like this, we say, well, hey, there's a possibility. So I'm glad it got brought up here, but we're certainly going to have to find it somewhere, but in a very short time. And that's what I'm going to search for, and I'm asking you to tell your people to find us where we can find the COLA and hit it. And that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Jen, can you just confirm that, so the workbook process from this February versus last, that the school-based allocations wouldn't have changed? So, I mean, if we went back and looked at O'Keefe's last year versus this year, you're saying they're identical allocations?
As long as like the number of students is the same. I mean, the allocation is based on numbers, but yeah, that formula hasn't changed at all.
Okay, we do want to move through. We still have agenda items. So if there's not any further discussion, it's recommended that the Board of Education...
Can I just take a very brief response to one? And I just want to say that, repeat that adding administrative school-level positions has never been exercised as part of the workbook process in the 13 or 14 years I've been following the Madison Board of Education, to my knowledge. And this is a deviation that I think deserves more consideration by the board before it's allowed to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I maybe just to, I am going to support this because we're here and we have names and kids need teachers and principals both. And I think next year I would really like to see something earlier on when we do workbooks to have some insight into that process, because this is late to be having this discussion. It's not the right time.
Happy to do so. And I'll, in the meantime, reshare with everyone the guidance that shows what's flexible and what isn't at the school level, just so you have some sense for what that is. And TJ, while I would agree, we have more principals making this choice this year. Alice chose to use site-based decision-making to create an assistant principal probably a couple years now ago, so not brand new. So there may be some other isolated instances, but so few that probably just didn't catch your eye.
Okay. So it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the May 2018 Human Resources Transactions Report items 1 through 89. Second?
Second.
Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Passes 5-2. Okay, so that completes the consent agenda, and next on our agenda would be the report and action of items that proceeded through the instruction work group. TJ?
One moment, please. Let me just need to scroll. In a rarity, we have 2 action items that came through the instruction work group, and the first is the Forward Madison Partnership, and we heard 2 people speak positively about their own experiences in it, one tonight and one a new teacher, and the other a team scholar. I want to appreciate the work, express appreciation for the work that's been done on this. I want to also express appreciation for the changes to the MOA that reflect the discussion that occurred at the instruction work group. And I want to ask the superintendent about an issue that was not raised at the instruction work group, which is it is my understanding that in the past, and perhaps not this year, but in the past and perhaps in the future, the Team Scholar program requires proof of citizenship or residency status for our applicants. And that, in fact, it is one of a number of our partnerships that require this. And I want to publicly acknowledge that the Board of Education and our district is committed to equal opportunities for our undocumented students and our undocumented families. And ask that the district and the superintendent, in the name of the district, make a commitment to make sure that with Team Scholars in particular, that equivalent opportunities are available for our undocumented students at this time, and that to work on this in the coming year.
Yep, I really appreciate that, TJ. We have made that commitment and are in the midst of having those discussions with our partners, specifically at the UW. We know and want to ensure that every student has an opportunity to participate in any program that we have to offer. Clearly, the complication here is about, tuition and expenses that are somewhat out of our control and statutory in nature. But we are absolutely committed to having that conversation. We'll continue to do so, which, as you mentioned, relates to Team Scholars, but not limited to Team Scholars.
And we have people and others on the agenda for next month, and perhaps we can have more extensive documentation about what we're doing about it.
No doubt.
When those come our way.
Will do. Absolutely.
Much appreciated. With that in mind, is there further discussion? I move that the Board of Education approve the memorandum of agreement for the 3-year renewal of the high-intensity partnership Forward Madison as set forth in the documents prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular board meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second. Laura, your advisory vote? Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0. The next item is the behavioral education plan, which we had a number of people testify directly and indirectly about this evening. I guess I have a couple things I'd like to bring to the fore in relation to this, but first I'd like to ask other board members if you, having reviewed the changes since the instruction work group and what was and was not changed, if there's anything anyone else would like to bring forth. Nikki, first.
On the issue of fighting, I know that we
knew someone would do that. Okay. You're hard to see from here. Oh. Go ahead. Okay. Go ahead, Nikki.
I don't like one that that it could be a mandatory suspension, and I think that's still in there. Will be suspended, I think that takes away teacher discretion. The other thing, retaliating by hitting a person back is not self-defense. Having been a bullied kid, having worked in juvenile justice, having worked with kids who've been abused, may I just say that saying that fighting back in is not considered self-defense is something maybe it's just me, but I cannot agree to that.
Okay, I'd like to initially confine a discussion to the two issues that Nikki raised, and the superintendent wants to weigh in on that. And Laura,
I mainly just wanted to ask a process question.
Yes.
First, I think it might be helpful to have a couple members of the behavior team here.
Yeah, certainly, certainly.
If that's all
More
right.
than welcome. More than welcome.
So Leah and Quinn, if you could join me. And secondly, TJ, this is your facilitation, so however you want to do it makes sense. but I wonder if maybe using more of a consent style where we can flag any subsections of the grid that the board wants to discuss.
Yeah,
My-
TJ,
Or we
is
could
the
go
intent
through
to
it one by
open up
one.
the discussion?
My intent, I think there's going to be about 2 things that people want to discuss, and my intent was to take care of those and then do the whole thing. I don't think people are going to want to open up the whole grid. And
I would hope not.
wondering
Yeah,
which ones to zero in.
so my feeling is that there's going to be 1 or 2 things and 1 or 2 things only, and I thought that this would be the most efficient way to take care of those rather than working through the grid.
So Nikki, can you tell
That was
us
my
where you
feeling.
are?
Okay, great.
So that was the choice, and the one Nikki was one of the 2 I was anticipating.
So where are you exactly, Nikki, so we can see?
Under behavior response chart.
Inappropriate
And it's
physical
only in the
contact.
secondary.
It's in the second paragraph. Actually, it looks like the 3rd paragraph of the behavior response chart. Inappropriate physical contact, non-sexual.
So you know,
Second to last page, page 7 of the summary.
yeah, I'm on the summary.
And page 38 of the secondary BEP itself, of the red line.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
where we're working
so
from.
Page 7, inappropriate physical contact. Is that right? Non-sexual? Okay.
The 2 issues identified are the issue of self-defense and the issue of mandatory suspensions. Any statements or thoughts? I'll offer a thought on the mandatory suspension. I really don't understand why we're doing this, and I think that when we hear this testimony, especially from the families with students with special education needs, about how a lack of discretion can cause student removals and student suspensions in ways that are not to the benefit of anyone. Our current BEP allows for suspensions after 1, 2, and 3 incidents. So the discretion is there, and if principals aren't using it, I think that we're not giving them any new tool. And what we are doing is taking cases where something like this call on self-defense or the call on a child who is nonverbal is forced into a box around a suspension. And I think that the people on the ground are better suited to make those calls. And, you know, I've complained here about people doing repeated behaviors at levels 2s and levels 3s, and I've complained about it. But level 2 and level 3 is not a mandatory suspension, it's an optional suspension. And additionally, I also think that the emphasis on suspension moves us away from where I think the focus should be, which is on responses and interventions and supports. This gets the kid out of the school, which is something that we've been trying to get away from. So I will be asking that the mandatory suspension be removed.
And replaced with?
The word, the current version.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm fine with the maybe set to an alternative setting, which is the other one. But the student will be suspended. Just change it to student may be suspended. Laura.
So, in sort of related to what one of the public speakers mentioned, with students with an IEP, such as like something that involved like physical contact being related to the disability, would this still apply, or would there be something like the recommendation for suspension but not really letter being sent in this situation?
It was my reading it would still apply, but I would like to make sure.
Can you restate it one more time?
Yeah, so if there's a student with an IEP that has some like physical contact as being part of the disability, if there was like that student engaged in 3 like physical attacks, would this still be the disciplinary action that was taken, or would the IEP cause that to be different?
I think that would be a case-by-case basis, as most IEPs are. So.
See, I didn't ask permission to speak. TJ, may I?
Go ahead, Nikki.
My problem with it is this, is under our rules and under the situation, if you say you must someone, you're not putting in an exception. You're not saying a case-by-case basis. In fact, the only way that the placement is discussed through federal law and through state law is if it's more than 10-day change of placement or through a expulsion hearing, in which is the only time the manifestation comes into play. Therefore, if the principal doesn't choose to, then yes, it would apply. And that would be the legal way of reading it. Matt, would I be incorrect in reading it in that manner?
I do think that if a provision is put in a student's IEP that they are exempted from a provision, that is allowable. And we do have students who do have IEPs where they are exempted from certain provisions of the BEP. So that is a possibility. And I just want to clarify what the
proposal is
I'm
changing
looking
will
at
be
the
to maybe.
final column, the column to the right. And are we talking about where it says let's see, will be suspended, so
yes.
To a may?
Yes.
Which result in a total of 3 incidents will be suspended, and that a will to a may. Is that?
That is what is being discussed.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I was
yeah,
understanding.
I believe it was Mary, James, Dean.
Yeah, I would support the change from a will to a may. I personally, these recommendations came from our staff at the schools, but if they already have that power, they have to be responsible and take accountability. They have to make those decisions, and as long as they have the tools to do that, I'm comfortable, and I think then that addresses the issues with regards to in those cases where it's not appropriate.
I would agree with that. I think our main objective here was to trigger the discussion about an alternative setting, which is also not a requirement. It's a discussion. So I say change it to may. If ever,
James, Dean, and then if someone would like to make a motion.
Actually, I'm good. I had the same points in Mary's name, so I'm good.
I move we strike the word shall and replace it with may.
Second.
Is there a second? Matt, you had a point?
It's will.
Will. Just want to clarify.
It's
strike the word will.
It's will. It's will, not shall.
Okay, I would amend
Sorry.
that.
Any further discussion?
I had just one question for Matt. How many of our IEP students, can you find out for me, opt out of the behavior education plan? And can you also find out for me how many parents are notified that their children are allowed to opt out of the behavior education plan? I believe that's rather important.
Certainly.
Laura, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0. Other issues? Kate said she had one.
I did, although it looks like, did you guys just upload another version, like today? I haven't.
No, but we did make some changes.
Not today, though.
Not today.
I have an old, I had an old version
uploaded
on my
Thursday.
computer, so one of them is fixed. I mean, I guess the only other thing, just to reiterate, I think some of the commentary we heard tonight, that I'm glad we're doing this, I'm glad we've taken the feedback from schools, and I very much look forward to having a conversation about the broader context, both of our facilities with our safety and security work, as well as a much more thorough exploration of how to support behavior in schools over the course of the coming year. And I fully expect this to be very different coming out of the next year. So, thank you, Kate.
Nikki and Dean asked you to speak up, Kate.
Not to beat a dead horse to death, but can we please look into sending of these expulsion letters, at least on the phrasing, because it scares the living heck out of parents.
Nikki, that is on our list.
I was going to say.
To be looking at in general. Yep, that we've heard that though.
Yeah,
We'll be
well,
addressing
yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank the team for the work that's been done on this. And I also, before making a motion, and I'll make a motion, also want to ask both the board and our community to be thinking about both the process and the outcomes we'd like from a more thorough examination of the context that people talked about, the practices and procedures, the rules in this incredibly important area, because it is very near the center of the success of our schools right now.
Yes,
and look forward to the year when we're doing this, and express a little frustration that we're not doing more this year. So with that in mind, it is I move that the Board of Education approve Board policies 4502B, behavior education plan for elementary students, and 4502C, behavior education plan for middle and high school students, as set forth in the documents prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular meeting, as amended previously this evening, to be effective September 1st, 2018.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Laura, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 7-0. The instruction work group will meet next.
Thanks, guys.
On June, thank you. June 4th, 2018, and we will have the high-intensity partnerships previously referred to, People Program, Youth Apprenticeship, Madison College Early STEM Academy, and amendments to behavioral health in schools and in schools and elementary schools of Hope partnerships. So it's a big partnership meeting on June 4th. That is the report from the instruction work group.
Excellent. Thank you, TJ. The next is report and action on items that proceeded through the operations work group held on May 14th. I chaired that, so I will be reporting. The first item was the 2018-19 proposed preliminary budget review and input. Once again, we're getting down to the final on that. The next was youth options policy, and we discussed that, so I'm going to go right ahead and move that the Board of Education approve the changes to board policies 4027, course options / part-time open enrollment, and 4029, early college credit program, as set forth in the materials prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular board meeting, with said revisions to take effect on July 1st, 2018.
So moved.
I moved.
Oh, sorry, I almost did that wrong. Second.
Second, okay.
Sorry, Mary.
Any discussion? TJ.
In response to communications received today, I would like to offer amendments to all 3 ones, adding the reporting requirements that currently exist in 4027 to all 3 policies, restoring it to 4027 and adding it to the others, and adding additionally an accounting of costs to the district related to these as a reporting requirement.
Jen, any issues with that?
No, no issues.
Second.
Okay, so that amendment is moved and seconded. We are going to, Laura, your advisory vote on the amendment?
Aye.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? That amendment passes 7-0 then.
And apologies for, it was communication today. That's fine.
Okay, no problem. Any other discussion on this policy? Okay, Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay, the second part of that is I'm going to actually make the motion that the Board of Education establish a Start College Now policy as set forth in the materials prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular board meeting, with said policy to take effect on July 1st, 2018.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. Okay, next we were on to wellness policy, so we had quite a bit of discussion about that, and I will move that the Board of Education approve the changes to Board Policy 4610, Wellness, as set forth in the materials prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular board meeting, with said revisions to take effect immediately.
Second.
Second. Discussion?
Yeah, no, this is...
Can you pull it closer?
Sorry, Dean. It's late. I'm not talking so loud. Yeah. So I'm thrilled with this policy. I really appreciate all of the work that's gone into it, and I think it demonstrates our commitment as a district to whole child in a way that is incredibly positive for our students and staff. I have one amendment that I'd like to offer with respect to some of the changes around the sugar language that I've added. I'm incredibly excited to be able to add some language around sugar. This is us going above and beyond the federal nutrition policy to commit to our students that we're going to do better, and I really excited about that. So I wanted to tie it, though, to the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation. That was kind of the spirit of the discussion we had last week. So we have just some different language. I don't know if you want to read it, or I always mess these things up. So, all right. So the new language, it's the same paragraph. It's MMSD is committed to reducing sugar content in school meals. By the start of the 2018-19 school year, all items shall contain less than the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended daily sugar intake, currently 25 grams of sugar, with a target of less than 20 grams of sugar as a weekly average for the breakfast entree. Fruit juice served at breakfast will be limited to a maximum of 3 times per week at elementary schools and 4 times per week at secondary. So the only shift is around the maximum grams of sugar, and that's tied again to that AAP daily intake cap.
There's a second.
Okay. We're going to stay on this amendment right now.
It's related to the amendment.
Okay.
My issue is, how is this going to affect our food service budget? Have we budgeted out for the next year, and how we're going to afford to change the breakfast menu?
So Nikki, I can actually, we actually have at least a sample breakfast menu. There's 2 out of 6 items right now that surpass that limit.
Okay.
They actually surpass the previous limit as well, so there's no change in terms of at least the sample menus that we received. And again, the majority of our items are under this limit. It's us kind of taking the cap off of the top. So
I just wanted, that was my only question.
Okay. Has far more information than that.
Yeah, Steve has okayed this change, so he's nodding back there.
But we'll see if the
Steve's
board
leadership. I mean, maybe just. I'm going to say one more thing.
Steve's
Steve's leadership is what's making this possible, because this is not easy. So thank you for doing this for our community. So.
Okay, so any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, Laura, your advisory vote.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. That's the amendment. So we're back to the policy itself.
2 really small amendments. The first one is on page, top of page 3 under section 2A. The final sentence reads, the Wellness Policy and Progress Report shall be posted for the public on the district's website and submitted to the Board of Education. Just add that language there. I would like the board to have this, submit the report submitted to them instead of, oh, that's on the website, I never saw it, kind of thing. So.
Okay, and is there a second? Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes 7-0.
Okay, and on page 4, I need to find the language there, one moment. The current language reads that students shall have access, I gotta find it. By the start of the 2019-20 school year, students will have access to 20 minutes of seated lunchtime to ensure adequate time and space to eat meals, et cetera, I would like to insert the words at minimum 20 minutes of seated lunchtime. Again, a small change, but.
Okay, Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That amendment passes 7-0. Okay, so we're back to the original motion. We had a second. Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Wellness policy takes effect immediately. The vote is 7-0. Thanks for everyone's work on that.
And thank you to our community partners who spent a lot of time on this as well. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are on to our Chapter 1000 board policies. At the work group meeting, we agreed on a number of those policies that could that were reviewed and revised, or were going to stay the same. So there's some policies, I think 3 of them, that we decided we want more time with, but we're going to go ahead tonight and approve the changes on those policies that the board felt comfortable with without further discussion. So I will move that the Board of Education approve the changes to the following Chapter 1000 board policies as set forth in the materials prepared for the May 21st, 2018 regular meeting, with said revisions to take effect immediately. 1,021 on organization, 1,023 on superintendent responsibilities, 1,041 on other committees, 1,171 on powers and duties, 1,220 on order of business, 1,221 on operation, and 1,222 on public appearances. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. Our next meeting is June 11th, and our items for June 11th, proposed items are the 2018-19 budget review and input and a safety plan. So that's the report from the operations work group. And next on the agenda is the City of Madison Education Committee.
Yes, we met May 9th. We heard from Ricardo about the Opportunity Youth Program, and we had several questions on it. I did have to leave 10 minutes early, so just notifying that. And then as long as we have quorum, we're going to try and meet in June, but that's still up for debate via email.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Nikki. And then on to Student Senate. Laura?
So we talked about the Work Keys test and the critical creativity curriculum last week, and looking forward to our next meeting, which is May 30th, which is next Wednesday. We're going to think about how we can work on standardized testing and how the amount of it and what tests are performed in schools as a topic for next year.
Excellent.
Let us know when you figure it out.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
We will miss you, Laura.
Last meeting,
So
Laura?
we'll, okay.
Since your last meeting, you got one more.
I have one more instructional work group meeting.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so we'll see you.
So partied on then. Instruction work.
Okay, and also report from the ERO Ad Hoc Committee.
Yeah, similarly to our meeting today, we had a lot of public speakers, but unlike our meeting today, we are limited to a 2-hour meeting to that committee, so we did not get as far as we would like to. We're going to meet again in June, and prior to that, we're going to have a subcommittee meet to put an agenda together that hope us get us through the entire meeting in June, moving towards a report back here as soon as possible after that.
Okay, thanks, Dean. Yeah, James.
I guess my question is, I think when we set up the ERO committee, it was supposed to conclude May 28th.
Yes.
So
yes,
can you speak to that, and can we, are we at any point able to get to a hard timeline on bringing the committee to a close? And I'm not sure with the May 28th deadline if the board has to take some action to move beyond it, because that was the directive.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. The negotiations for the new contract starts in the last year, which would be at the beginning of the next school year. So that is whether, you know, we have a kind of an imposed deadline with that, most definitely. So my efforts and the rest of the committee is going to try to finish so that we'll be prepared to hand stuff to the board, and so the board can have some discussion about it prior to the negotiations.
Yeah, I think it's important that...
Hold on. Yeah, so I just want to... Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I think it's important that the board has some time with whatever document you all produce.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one of the concerns, that the board have time with whatever the document is.
So I would say, just because this is getting late,
You got one
Dean,
quick comment.
can you... Well, one thing I'm taking from James is just being able to get a timeline as to how, what will be the timeline with regard to the board report.
I'll do what best to get one. But, you know, we're close.
Okay.
We're close, and I think the entire committee realizes that we're getting towards the end here, and I'm hoping we can finish it in June. That would be a goal. And if we have to meet again in June to do it, we'll have to consider that, but that's where we're at. You got
Okay,
thoughts?
TJ?
I just agree with James. I think that this body should revise the timeline. If it was in the initial charge, and I believe it was, I'd have to go double check it, then I think that this body should revise the timeline, and we should do it at our next meeting or a special meeting before one of the work groups or something, so that it fits. I'm not quite as optimistic as James, but I think that July and August is realistic to have it, and we missed a meeting because of weather.
No, we got, yeah, I'm sorry.
And we've had meetings such as this week where half or more, or about half, is taken up with public appearances, and we have, in respect to the volunteers, limited our meetings to 2 hours, which you would appreciate, but it makes it hard to get the work done.
Okay, so I think that makes sense to get a revised timeline in front of the board so that we can consider that. Okay. So on to other business, and since this is a topic that has been discussed as part of negotiations with regards to the request to purchase a warehouse, I will go ahead and move that the Board of Education approve the purchase of an 8,500 square foot warehouse located at 4502 Tompkins Drive for the use by Building Services at a cost of $645,000 with funding from the 2018-19 general fund.
Second.
Okay, discussion, Nikki.
Again, I understand the need for it. I understand the purpose for it. I cannot justify the cost based on the number of teachers we can't provide for, and the amount of technology we can't provide for. Therefore, although I admire the work of all members, I cannot vote for this.
Kate.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate the work done here, and in order to be proactive about our resources, I am also going to be voting against this for slightly different reasons. This will be a one-time expense, so it's a little bit different, but for me, I think we have a lot of facilities needs in our district, and I'd really like to evaluate a broader set together. This isn't at the top of the list for me, and so it's more a push to incent us to have that conversation, because I'm eager to have the conversation about our facilities.
Other discussion? Okay, Laura, your advisory vote.
Nay.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Can we see a show of hands for that? For opposed? Passes 4-3. Okay. And with that, we don't have any old or new business, and so is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Laura, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Matt, good job on the policies. You got more policies passed in one night than the last.